Hey guys, Apotheosis here. Welcome back to part 2 of the boss battle progression path video. We are starting at Trent and Damocles 12 in this video. So if you haven't completed Proto or Iscariot 12, then you need to go back to part 1 of this video. Otherwise, welcome back. This video will have the first guide that I've made to Damocles and Ahkenaten 12 since their release. So you could jump to those sections using the timestamps in the description if that's the reason that you're here. Otherwise, we're going to get right back into my progression path with discussion on Trent and Damocles. To move forward and get your first manual clears of Trent out of the way, you might want to take some time and watch some of my other videos. Start with the Cartia guide video to build her right and know how she works. She drastically decreases gear requirements when used right and when synergizing with her team. If you want to slate her, check out the dimensional slate video before you waste your precious resources by doing it inefficiently. And at the making of that dimensional slate video, it was very inefficient to slate epics, and I actually advise not to do that. Since then, we've had several changes that make it worth it, and Cartia is definitely a candidate for dimensional slate now. For Trent 12, Karu is almost mandatory as well. It's doable without her, but it's so much easier with her. For more help with team comps and mechanics for Trent, refer to my Trent 12 video guide. All three of these videos are in the description below. Now, while the Trent guide is still very relevant for learning this fight, it is missing some damage options, like Rita, who is a powerhouse on this fight. But it will definitely explain those difficult fight mechanics for you. For Damocles 12, the suggested team is Artemiel, Weiwei, Karu, Arslan, and Reaper. You can replace Artemiel with a well-built Trent or Freya. You could also try Rachel or Fabian if you need other options. You can also replace Arslan with Kangrim or Balder. Any single target damage dealer that you have invested in will work. Reaper again shines here because of her evasion from the backline. She also has guaranteed crits to increase her S2 damage and high uptime on her S3 since the boss is immune to her insta-kill. She is very good here, but she is also replaceable with another well-built single target damage dealer if you need to. The fight mechanics are almost the same concerning the lanterns as they were on stage 10, and you can still ignore them with somewhat decent gear. But I can break them down for you real quick for your first manual runs. If you missed the lantern description in part 1, just heal the right lantern or attack the left lantern to gain their buff. This will either prevent an incoming freeze application or remove a freeze from an ally when you heal them directly. In phase 1, he will put up a giant ice barrier. If you attack this barrier, you get frozen. The lantern buff can prevent this freeze if you attack the shield while the buff is on you. Or you can just attack it with someone that you don't mind getting frozen. In phase 2, he will eventually freeze a target and then channel an attack. If you unfreeze that target using the lantern buff before he finishes channeling, they should not die to the attack. Or if you have enough damage, you can even transition him to phase 3 before even needing to break them out. Next, he will freeze the whole team when he transitions. This is where most people do use the lanterns while they're playing on manual. Pick it up on priority targets to have them available for after the transitions. This freeze cannot be removed without the lanterns or without waiting for the duration to expire. Bubble tea and passive heals shine bright on this fight because of this. They continue to heal while we are frozen. If you need help surviving, just increase your attack on Weiwei or your healers to increase the healing output while frozen. Phase 3 is the hardest part for most players. He will assign freezes to all of your team in order of their max HP. Those with less max HP will get the shortest duration of this freeze. Your loons with the biggest max HP pools are going to get the longest freeze duration. But then the boss will attack these loons with the high max HP pools first, so they won't have to wait the full duration of the freeze anyways. So you can see on my team setup, I'll demonstrate this with some screenshots because it's not that easy to explain verbally. My Artemil has the biggest HP pool, so he gets a 5 turn duration on this freeze, but he gets attacked by the boss as soon as he freezes anyways. So Artemil's the first one to break out on my team. Then my Reaper has 1 turn duration on her freeze because she has the lowest HP pool. So the second she gains a turn, she breaks out of that freeze. You can tune HP pools on your team as well to make sure that you get the right turn order in order to survive the damage while you're frozen. For example, you can make sure that Bubble Tea is up before the transition. Then have Wei break out of the freeze early. My team's, she breaks out first or second, while Bubble Tea does its job. Breaking her out before your damage dealer then allows her to buff attack again, since it probably fell off while that damage dealer was frozen. Then she can rebuff Bubble Tea since the boss will freeze the whole team again later on. The boss's defense is so low that you don't need a lot of turns from your DPS. You just need them fast enough that they aren't getting lapped by the boss. If they do get lapped, they will not break out and they will end up permafrozen. That's really all there is to Damocles 12, so good luck. Next we have Ahkenaten 11. This is almost on the same difficulty level as Trent and Damocles 12. So you can attempt this if you can't do Ahkenaten 12 yet. Both fights are the same. 12 just has a lot more damage requirement to fill the jar on the right. Freya, Trent, Karu, and Ahonis are a really big help on this fight. If you have them built for other content, you should definitely try using them here. I will briefly explain the fight mechanics while discussing team options to deal with each mechanic. There are just so many teams capable of doing Ahkenaten 12 right now. It just helps to know the mechanics to know which direction you want to go with your account. First of all, the boss will ignore defense. The jars then buff him to make him hit a lot harder the longer the fight goes on. This is the first place that Bubble Tea doesn't decrease the boss's damage output because of that soul damage. This decreases her efficacy in this content, but she's still good for soul generation and buffing attack power with Sweet Temptation in most comps. Freya can help survive big AoE damage output in phase 2 and 3. And Ahonis helps here by letting you take bigger ignore defense hits by giving you bigger HP pools. This fight doesn't have to be a race at all. You can use all supports and all healers to pull this off because the boss also doesn't have any defense. This fight is a lot more about controlling how the jars fill up in order to transition between phases smoothly. Again, if you missed it in part 1, this fight transitions between phases by filling up both jars. When one jar is full, the boss will not take damage until you deal with the other jar. If a full jar takes a turn, they will apply a mark to your team. If the boss attacks while everyone has a mark, he will insta-kill that target, and they cannot be rezzed after dying to this attack. In phase 1, the jar on the left will fill up after you take direct damage. Damage to shields do not count. The jar on the right fills up with damage that you deal to the boss. So you can shield your team or evade boss attacks to slow the filling of the left jar, or increase your damage output to speed up the filling of the right jar. Again, the boss has 0 defense, so you can skip reducing defense on this fight. Increasing damage stats are all that you need to do more damage. Phase 2, the left jar will require an obscene amount of healing to be done, while the right jar needs a mediocre amount of crit damage to land on the boss. So the control you aim for here is slow crit damage together with fast, big heals. Crits are also very important in this phase for survivability. Any damage that lands as a non-crit will be returned to the Elune as soul damage. If your non-crit damage scaling is too high, or if your max life pool is too low, this will easily kill your team. You can be rezzed after dying this way though. There are several ways to deal with this if you're not resurrecting. If using Kartia, make sure you have crit buffs from Karu or Miho, or both. Large HP pools from Ahonis help as well. Careful move selection, while your health buffs have expired and your attack buffs are active, is also very important. Or some comps can use this soul damage from non-crits to trigger heal when damage taken abilities, like Bubble Tea, or Freya and Trent's passive heals. This can help achieve that steep healing throughput requirement for this phase. When doing this, it also helps to not have a crit buff active. Just be careful because this non-crit damage also heals the boss. You will need some crits in phase 3 to be able to finish the fight. But if you can manage your way through phase 2, most teams can easily execute the boss in phase 3. The only other mechanics you need to know are the debuffs. Phase 1 has a weaken effect that makes you take more damage, and an AoE attack break that messes with attack scaling supports. Phase 2 has a stun, and an AoE healing done decrease that impedes your ability to fill that jar on the left. Trent is big in preventing these, of course, and Karu can also remove one debuff per turn, or Mejid can help you resist if you want to use her here. Miho actually works very well in this fight as well, since Bubble Tea is so much less effective. Miho can fill the role of soul generation and can attain very high crit and evasion when used together with Kartia or if you're using an awakened Miho. Again, there are so many comps to try here. The most entry level team that we can suggest is Artemiel, Ahonis, Weiwei, Karu, and Freya or Trent. These teams are very slow, but again, reliable in terms of control. The synergy between Artemiel, Ahonis, and crits with Bubble Tea really lead to this 0 DPS team having enough damage. If you don't have Artemiel, just use a Kartia comp. Again, be careful about missing a crit when using Kartia. If her attack buff is active, this soul damage in phase 2 would kill just about anyone. You can even bring Miho and Karu if you want to guarantee 100% crit. You just need to make sure that you heal enough in phase 2 with either Freya or Trent. And that's all you need for Ahkenaten 12. Good luck, guys. Alright, last in the progression and definitely highest in difficulty is Imae 12. It is very hard mechanically at the moment, and those that do kill it use insane gear to one-shot him from the first phase to dead. You need Kangrim to achieve over 100,000 attack, Baron J over 92,000 attack in order to set up the one-shot. This is done with a min-max Kartia setup. Kartia needs at least 16,000 base attack to do this together with Karu, and she does a lot better when you get base attack closer to 18 or 20,000 and up. Baron also needs 18,000 to 20,000 to make this comfortable, and you do this with a full moon 3 set in order to land his defense break. Full moon has lower stats, so Dimensional Slate helps all of these Elunes a lot in this setup. When Kartia is built well enough, you can also attempt replacing Karu with Mejid. This can reduce some RNG by allowing you to use a 30k non-crit Kartia card in order to achieve those thresholds. And obviously, the higher the non-crit card, the better. It all depends on your team. I have videos of my Imae 12 setup in the description if you think that you can attempt this with your gear and your slates. Eventually, if you played this game long enough, you will understand everything that I just said about Imae. If it was a different language for you, don't worry. Right now, it's not necessary to understand. Play the game without attempting this fight until the devs make it easier. Farm stage 10 Imae for recipes, and then use mats from Proto 12 and Iscariot 12 to make level 85 boots when you need them. To wrap up, I'll review how to start auto farming these in the endgame. Let's just start with a golden rule here. Auto battle is only possible after manualing that content has become easy for your account. If you struggle on manual, so will the AI. Farm more and come back to this section when it's easy. Auto battle is just something to save you some effort in your day-to-day grind that you can achieve the longer you commit yourself to that grind. Iscariot is the same setup that we discussed and by far the easiest. Use tanks and debuffers frontline and Reaper backline and hit go. Proto uses the same 2 strats that we discussed, just set up the skill queue. If using the confused teams, you need to set up a team that can survive an 80% max HP hit. in addition to escorting them to that golem. At the making of this video on auto, Bella, Reina, and even Gaonsari all attack the golems before they attack the boss. But they might attack the golem on the right instead of the one on the left, meaning that you can take one hit, maybe two 80% max HP hits. Heal on damage taken will help you survive bad RNG if you do happen to suffer two golems in this setup. To auto using the zombie Mei comp, refer to that video and my other zombie videos in order to min-max your own team setup using the skill queue. I give you all the information that you need in those videos. Again, this guide is opening the door and laying the path out for you. Now, it's your turn to think and develop some teams for yourself. For Trent, I use Cartia, Karu, Weiwei, Ahanis, and Rita. Any slated or well-geared AoE DPS will do fine here. Q Arslan to S2 or Reve or Balder if that's who you've invested in. For Damocles, use the comp that I discussed earlier. With enough gear, you phase through phase 2 without losing anyone. With tuning, max HP in phase 3 for your turn order, how we discussed in that section, auto will be able to execute the boss without any problem. Ahkenaten is a very difficult fight to auto. My suggestion is to find a slow comp that can semi-auto it. Full auto is very hard to control the jars for me at the moment. I did try this on stream for 8 hours the other day. I can auto it, but not with enough reliability to suggest a team or tell you how to build it. My team for Ahkenaten 12 is Artemil, Weiwei, and Karu in the front line of defense formation. Ahanis and Freya sit in the back line. Weiwei is slated HP on my account, but probably not even needed here since Bubble Tea doesn't really work. I did swap her exclusive gear from HP to attack for this fight though. If the slate did anything on Weiwei, it increased the damage for Artemil in order to fill the jar on the right. You don't need any skill queue. The problem with this auto team is that it probably won't work for anyone else. It just happens to transition phases with my specific setup, and it's way too specific for me to recommend. Your best bet here is to troubleshoot your own auto team until I can find something more all-purpose or more fail-proof. For auto Imae, just stop. Remember the golden rule. If it's too difficult to manual, you can't auto it. We need to wait for the devs to either balance the fight or until someone in the community finds a cheese. If I find one, I will share it with you guys. To wrap up this auto 12 section, share your auto comps in the comments below. I will compile them all into a single comment and pin it again in the hopes that this video becomes a one-stop resource where we compile all of the resources together. If you do comment, use your in-game or Discord name so that I can credit your persona for helping the community. That's everything I have for now. I hope I made this guide concise enough. If you have any questions, join the public Discord, guys. People help out there all the time. And a big thank you to all those people that do chime in and help. You take a big load off of me. You build up the community every time you do help, and you are very much appreciated. Everyone else, mahalo nui loa for the support as always. Get out there, kill some bosses, and I'll see you in the end game. Bye!